Have you guys wondered if you should be worried about inflation and all this talk about rising interest rates? Well, you've probably been seeing talks all over the news about inflation, and you've probably felt it in your pocketbook if you've gone out to buy gas, milk, lumber, most products. But what does this mean for you as the consumer? Should you be worried when you hear people talking about inflation? How's it affecting mortgage rates? Well, in today's video, we'll be breaking down the current situation and how it might be impacting interest rates and whether or not you should wait to either buy your house or refinance. So don't forget, I'm wearing red. Why? Because it is another marvelous Red Friday. That's what we do here at Low VA Rates. It's an outward expression of how we feel about our military service members, those deployed, those that are safely home. We love the military here, and this is what we do every Friday. Now, before we jump in, I'm going to go to the whiteboard here. We're going to put up here so you guys can remember what we're talking about. Hopefully I don't get too far off the path, but sometimes I do. So we're going to talk about inflation and whether or not you should be worried about it. I just wanted to mention that I am not an economist. We don't have any economists here at Low VA Rates. We are, however, mortgage professionals, and we feel like we're pretty good at what we do. And so we're just going to share some opinions today, but these opinions are backed with lots of knowledge. This is what we do for a living, okay? So now that that's out of the way, let's get right down to it. To start, the current inflation that's happening right now is actually linked to something good, an economic recovery. So during the pandemic, there was all sorts of pent-up demand. People were more cautious about spending their money because they didn't know if they were going to lose their job. People weren't traveling. So now that the economy is starting to open back up, unemployment's going back down, people are feeling more confident about spending. And this creates demand for certain items. So inflation comes from demand, okay? When there's a lot of demand for things. So all of this demand that has come back into the economy after the lockdowns were somewhat loosened up has created certain temporary supply bottlenecks. So during the pandemic, when things shut down, certain industries started to experience supply shortages. Now, when you add that to the new demand that we're seeing, these shortages are leading to what many experts believe is simply a temporary increase in prices. Something else that you see during inflationary periods of time is prices for many goods and services go up. You're seeing that. Now, many experts have said that once the demand comes back to normal, dies down a little bit, and the supply chains open back up and catch up with the demand, prices should settle and start to come back down. Now, some predict that they will settle as early as the beginning of 2022, so we're about 6 months out. The question, however, is how should this impact you and should you be worried? Well, my suggestion, my opinion, I wouldn't get too worried just yet. Now, it never hurts to be cautious, but you don't necessarily need to go out and just stop spending your money. Just make sure you're not depleting all of your savings and continue to try and spend and help with this economic recovery. As citizens of this wonderful country, we all play a role in getting back to normal, getting back out there, feeling comfortable spending and traveling and spending time with the family. Now let's talk about what you guys are probably most interested in if you're watching our videos, and that is how does this impact your mortgage rates? Not just VA loans, though that's what we focus on here, but all mortgage rates, potentially even interest rates on cars and credit cards. Whenever there's talk of inflation, there's also talk of interest rates and what's going to happen. One of the Federal Reserve's primary roles is to help manage the economy by protecting both against inflation, that's what we're seeing right now, and a recession, which is what we kind of saw during the pandemic. It was temporary, but we saw things slow down. And a primary tool that they use to manage this is through their federal funds rate, okay? Fed funds rate. You guys are going to be super smart after this video. This is something you'll talk a lot about in an economics class in the university or, after high school. But the Fed controls the federal funds rate. This is this is the rate that banks lend each other money back and forth to. And trust me, behind the scenes, banks are lending money out, they're borrowing money. The rate at which they can do that is the federal funds rate. Now, to encourage growth and prevent a recession, the Fed typically can raise rates or lower rates. Okay, so to encourage growth, what do? They lower rates. To slow growth down and combat inflation, they normally raise rates. So the Fed's always kind of pulling this string over here and pulling this string over here, and it's not easy, but it's one of their duties. So how does this all tie back into your mortgage rates? Well, while they are directly tied to the federal funds rate, that's what the Fed impacts, mortgage rates are influenced by this. They're not directly tied to it. The Fed can affect the federal funds rate. As the federal funds rate goes down, normally speaking, mortgage rates go down, auto loan rates go down, credit card rates go down. It's not a direct impact, but it trickles down through the system. Now, if we wanted to dive deeper into this relationship, you could check out the video that is linked down below near the comment section. So what does that mean for you if you're potentially looking to buy a home right now or you've been considering a refinance? What does this mean? Well, right now, the Fed has been pretty clear that they expect the current inflation to fade away in coming months, and based on historical similarities. Now, we've never been in a pandemic before, but we have had recessions. We have had the Fed in a situation where they've had to aggressively cut interest rates. So again, they don't currently have plans to raise interest rates in the near future. That's kind of their current game plan. However, they have said that they're monitoring the situation very closely, and if they need to act, they are ready. Now, what does that mean? Well, if this demand stays high and prices continue to go up, inflation is going to continue to rise, and the Fed will have to slow that down. The only way the Fed can slow down inflation is to raise the federal funds rate, which would ultimately impact mortgage rates and auto loan rates and all the other interest rates out in the market. So that is going to come at some point if inflation increases. But right now, most of us, myself included, based on what the Fed has said, we expect interest rates to continue to stay around where they are right now, which is low, making now an absolutely good time to refinance or buy a home. So let's wrap this all up. Inflation and increased prices like gas and clothing and back to school supplies, all this stuff is more expensive right now because of inflation. But now is not the time to panic. Most financial experts out there, most economists believe that the current inflation situation is temporary and it is going to stabilize in the near future once the demand levels out. So in the meantime, make sure you're taking advantage of all these low interest rates. How would you do that? Well, I would suggest calling us. Okay, call us, chat live through our website, or fill out one of the forms on our website because we're standing by ready to help you make that refinance a reality or to purchase that new home. Thanks for watching. This is Eric. We'll see you next Friday with something brand new.